All right, folks, we are back for Excel the Stream Part 4. More utilities. We should be able to get through them all today, or at least I hope so. This should be the last one. I still have barely even started actually implementing or looking into any of these things, partially because I had a little setback with the core analyzer and still have. It's really hard to manage that item. I have so many notes on it now after going through a lot of possibilities. So I've been kind of stumped on that one. But actually, I was going to look at some of that in a bit. We'll take a look at that. What I've been thinking about. But yeah. So Excel the stream. I did remember to turn off my email this time, so we won't get any jump scares when an email pops in. Nice Windows alerts like that. All right. So let's see. Oh, okay. Well, I got all this highlighted here. Remind me that one of the things that I did come to a conclusion on, I like the idea of, I think it could work from our last stream, was the idea of a way to block all crits. So some people were wanting us to maybe change the longevity of shieldings here. Um, so that they could continue to work as anti-crit utilities. Because otherwise they get, part of their main purpose originally was to protect the integrity of your parts, and that's kind of still their purpose. But I mean, that's still the main purpose. And originally they had even more integrity to do that with. But then they also have the ability to block crits, and some people really like the fact that they can block all crits against parts of that type. But I don't really want to increase their longevity and decrease their ability to protect parts just yet. I think an alternative, which I'd like to experiment with and try first, is having a utility that it just outright blocks crits, all of them, against you or any bot that has this utility attached. I'm not sure. I looked into it, and I'm not really sure what bots I can give this to. Well, because basically to give that to a bot, it makes them more powerful against certain build types. Uh, I mean, ideally, it would be nice to remove like some of the bot immunities, like coring immunity, and give them this utility. That's always a nice thing to do in the design, because then there's a way by destroying this part that you can get rid of that immunity, and then you can attack them with another, other weapons and other stuff. But it's then you have to actually get rid of that in order to make such a utility useful to the player, more useful to the player. It's going to have very low coverage, and actually the design that I already came up with the design. It's going to have low coverage and higher integrity for a device actually. So I'm not sure if that's going to really work out as a part for other bots, but I'm sure people will still probably like to use it, right? So let's see, chat. Bad Emperor's here. Oh, our Bad Emperor's going to finish watching Tone's extension. Yeah, Tone is happens to be streaming right now on a. I was surprised to see that. I went in to announce my own stream, and I noticed Tone is streaming, which means most of the people who are probably hanging out here now are still watching Tone finish up. He's been streaming for 5 hours on a new run, and he's still currently in extension. I imagine his run won't go on too much longer, but we'll see people gradually coming from over there to here. He's probably going to at least finish extension. Um, but yeah, we're gonna do. It's a shorter stream today. I'm not gonna be streaming all morning. I'll have about 2 hours, and then I got some other stuff I got to do. So hopefully, in that amount of time, we'll be able to cover the rest of the ground we need to do here. Heavy Risk says can always just watch both. Yeah, I guess. I mean, you can watch what Tone's doing. I guess you kind of got to listen to the stream because there's not much to actually watch here, except I guess you can see what we're moving around and highlighting. That's one thing. Welcome to the stream, Jimmy. All right, so yeah, we're going to start off with a smaller crowd here, and I guess it'll gradually grow over time. So I'm not sure if I should cover. I guess I'll be covering old ground first then. So I did cover the shielding thing and this new part, which is going to come up. I haven't actually implemented it yet. Halfway through implementing that, and then I got sidetracked with yet more core analyzer thoughts because the finishing implementing this actually would cause some changes in the architecture. So I need to figure out what's going to happen with the core analyzer too, because that has to do with crits and immunities. Basically, it's kind of all mixed together. But yeah, the core analyzer, I've got some ideas for that. Let's look at another spreadsheet because spreadsheets are fun, especially when they've got pretty colors. This is what I've been working on. I worked on it, just doing some quick experiments on possibilities for uh, a new possible core analyzer. And so the idea was, so currently piercing weapons have a special effect on their damage that they increase the basically they increase the exposure of the core. Now, that kind of, to be honest, made piercing weapons a little too powerful. They didn't used to be too powerful because the percentage increase on core exposure was much smaller. I think it was originally it was a third, which was probably more balanced. But people asked me to increase it, and I did, and more people started using piercing, and I made that increase without even actually testing the numbers. And now it's known that they're actually kind of overpowered. So yeah, by increasing that, I made it too powerful. Probably, that's at least that's what the numbers show here. If you look here, you can see that. Yeah, okay. So should I make this bigger for you? Yes. Uh, Make it even bigger. There, you can see less. I like it when it's smaller, especially in this font. This font looks better when it's small, not large. But anyway, looking at this data here, um, we've got. All right, what does this mean? This is base coverage for base core exposure. Sort of the same thing. Hey MTF, who am I supposed to watch? I know it's problematic. Right? I think you should probably listen to the stream and watch Tone's stream, maybe. And glance over to mine if there's something that's starting to pique your interest. So in the numbers, so we've got here. This is core exposure for all the bots, which is this is how I set the values. I set the core exposure I want. For those of you who don't know this already, I've mentioned it on stream before, but I set the core exposure value I want, and then it sets the actual exposure of the bot's core, the static number, based on this percentage. So this base here is actually the percent chance to hit their core. So like this set chance for all grunts is actually 40. The reason this comes out to 39 is just due to math, because it rounds. It has to round somewhere, and it ends up rounding it down usually if necessary, based on Cogmind math. Because otherwise it might end up as 41 or whatever. But anyway, it calculates this all at runtime when it actually starts based on the percentage I set for the core exposure. Because that's the most important part of a bot's design is how easy is it to destroy them by destroying their core, which is the standard way to destroy them, right? So this number needs to be controlled more tightly. I can't just let it be all the bots have 100 on their core, and then their actual exposure depends on the parts they have. That just gets too chaotic, and you can't control it. So for the control here, I set it as a percent chance to hit their core. So that's what this base number means. Now, with piercing weapons, they double the exposure of the core. Now, by double exposure doesn't mean double the percent. See here, the grunt has 40% base. This is a times 2 multiplier on their core gives a 50% chance to hit their core. Notice it's not 80% because it's not doubling this, it's doubling the underlying static number, which was calculated to give the 40%. So by doubling that number and then recalculating it along with the parts, it becomes, if you double that number, it becomes a 57% chance to hit the grunt's core. So as you can, that's piercing. Again, this piercing does times 2. So what you can see, that's how to put this. So what I wanted to do was experiment with other numbers. What's the difference? So see, times 1.4 on the core is 48%, 50%, 53, 57. And these other numbers here on the this is the percent increase over the chance to hit the core. So this is kind of, this number here is a way to compare across different bots the effectiveness of piercing, or what I was considering for the core analyzer. I was thinking, okay, so what if we just give the core analyzer an ability like this? It gives a higher chance to hit their core. So what I wanted to do, you can see these bars here, is it shows the variation of how effective piercing or a core analyzer with this effect would be versus different kinds of bots. See how more effective they are. You can see these bigger bars for the specialists, for example, and lower bars versus, these aren't important, too important, they're angels. They definitely less useful versus swarmers. Not that that's important because you're going to use explosives against swarmers anyway, most of the time. But they're pretty effective against heavies. So this is just, and they're really effective against behemoths in terms of percentages. Hey, Valguris. Yeah, I saw you in the chat list. I finally got one of these live. I know you were, yeah, I've actually taken a couple notes based on what you left after watching the VODs or on YouTube. And you left some comments. But yeah, it's always nice if you can take part and get a little back and forth. So nice to see you here, Valorous. So yeah, you can see fighting um, behemoths with piercing is pretty effective. Uh, so you can compare. Basically, this shows the variability across different bots. All right, and again, we are. This is a full spoiler stream as usual, so you will see things in here that's you maybe don't want to see, but it can't be avoided. We have to consider all things. All right, and I highlighted these because these are the main two bot types in the game. Basically, your swarmers and your grunts are the most common bots, and what you'll see the most of and kill the most of. So they're kind of an important thing to focus on. So I highlighted them to see how different they are. But anyway, no, we're not examining. Hey, Chrysanthemum, we're not examining bots right now. We're actually examining piercing and core analyzer. But to do that, we have to examine bots because it has to do with their core exposure. So anyway, I compared these. I just wanted to see what kind of progression we could get going with just some other random values here that were lower than 2. And basically, I didn't really like the fact that this isn't quite variable enough, and it's also not variable in a way that's at all obvious. These numbers, they're like all over the place, which kind of makes sense. But it's also just not quite variable enough. I wanted perhaps I'd like if this was more useful against certain bots than others, but it's not really the case. But I did find that piercing is definitely OP based on these just absolute numbers here, the percentages. So probably gonna have to just nerf that. That's my idea. Is yeah, nerf piercing a bit. Um, Pretty much, yeah. So, but I haven't actually done anything related to that. The whole purpose of this experiment was to look at the core analyzer. So, what I wanted to do was try some alternatives. What if instead of doing a multiplier on the already pre-calculated core exposure, what if we added a static value to their amount of coverage? And how does that change things? My hope was that it would be even more variable, and so look at these, but look at these bars here. Part of the reason that they're all kind of small is that you've got some really weird example. The proto variant, proto variant happened to turn up with some really crazy values, and so it messed up all the other bars, sort of. But you can sort of see that there's not a ton of variation. There is more than you find over here, but the numbers are also very high. It's basically it's pretty powerful. Obviously, there's these really important numbers at the bottom, which a lot of people care about. Just how effective it is. Look how effective piercing is versus bosses. Um, Very effective. So this increase here, percent increase, would actually be less effective uh, versus them. But yeah, piercing is good. It's kind of OP in that sense. So yeah, I got to relook at these numbers, and I'm gonna nerf piercing for that reason. It was kind of have been talking about it being OP forever, but without running the numbers, I couldn't tell exactly how much it was. But yeah, actually using Cogminder as well. I don't have the stats anymore. I did actually use Cogminder for a simulation on this. I wanted to compare. I did a little comparison by fighting a behemoth with two weapons, a piercing weapon and a slashing weapon, which have a similar damage range. And the piercing weapon could core a bot much, clearly it was faster. And that kind of just purely demonstrates this effect. And I wanted to see if that effect was comparative to the percentages here, and it was. Um, so yeah, Cogminder now part of the dev process. Congrats, Mika. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I do like it. But all right, Valgura is here. Yeah, adding a flat value doesn't work well because the effectiveness would depend on the flat core exposure value. Players don't know the exposure value, so we have no idea how effective it is. Exactly, Valguras. And that's why I didn't like it. In fact, that's why I don't like either of these values. I don't like either of them. I mean, technically, remember these multipliers are also based on the static value that you don't know. It's not based on this exposure. We could base it on this exposure, but if we did that, honestly, what if we did it? What if we did a static number based on this exposure? I didn't actually think of that possibility yet. But yeah, I didn't like the fact that this is all based on hidden information. And so one of the thoughts I had with regard to these values is, okay, it's hidden information. What if we make it less hidden? And for example, anytime you toggle your core analyzer, it would show you the changes in percentage for hitting core and etc. So it becomes kind of there. There's a number of parts that you can do that. You toggle it to get more relevant information. That would be one possibility. But in the end, I really just don't like this whole system. either of them. And I'd like to do something about that. Um, Valgriss is flat 10% chance to hit core before any coverage calculations. Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, that's the same thing that I'm talking about here in terms of just giving giving a plus value to this. They're really they're similar. They're static. They're obvious. That gets around the problem that this is all just hidden information, and I don't like it. It's too complicated. Especially core analyzers in general are complicated. A percent chance to transfer half damage to core, et cetera, et cetera. That was too complicated too. So um, yeah, I think a static value on here might work. And in fact, I don't have that on my notes yet. I still hadn't come up with a conclusion for core analyzers. I have so many notes on. Let me see here 1 second. Let me start a new section of notes. I'm gonna try. I'll consider that. I'm gonna have to look at the. I'll look at. Yep, I think that would probably work. I mean, it would work. Probably it would work. I think the only problem with it is, I mean, balance. Exactly how good do you want it to be? And anyway, I'll run some numbers on it. Add this down. So yeah, that'd be something to try. I wanted to reiterate that I just wanted to show that I went through all this stuff and I don't like that, and I don't like the fact I don't like these numbers, and I don't like the fact that it works like it's based on hidden info. And if that was the conversion for core analyzers, then this would do the same. This would be the same for piercing. This effect would make it a better armor integrity analyzer, so it would need to be low percent, 15% max, probably, if not lower. Yeah, it would end up being pretty low. Sorry. I don't know. Yeah, we don't know what the exact number would have to be, but yeah, it'll be something low. We'll see what it is. But yeah, 15% max. I would see it being something less than probably 15. It'd be more like even 10 would be really good. But it depends on what the bots you're fighting too. So I'm gonna put in the numbers and we'll compare, or I'll compare later. But yeah, that's pretty all right. That's it for the core analyzer discussion. Just wanted to go over that. I think glad that you guys brought that up, the extra static percent, because I hadn't really considered the direct static percent, but I just know that I didn't like all the hidden info. So we got that, and that would be converted, or piercing damage would do the same. One other thing that I had. Oh, but one interesting note is that by spending all that time on core analyzers, I came up with like several other mechanics that might make for interesting utilities on their own if they're not a core analyzer. So that's something for the future, perhaps. Came up with some interesting ideas. What else could a theoretical core analyzer do? What other effects might we want? The old 33% was all right. Nanoswords or OPM mainly was used to. Yeah. Yeah. Piercing with third plus 3% core exposure is about as effective as nanoswords. Mm, yeah, I don't know. I think I do think that the old number was pretty decent. People didn't like it, perhaps for other reasons other than the fact that that percentage was low. Because I mean, it seems like number wise, it was already pretty good. And actually, you can see that here. Look at the differences. Like look at like this is a plus 40% to these values, and look at the increase on these bots. It's even more than what we're talking about in terms of the number of plus 15, which would put it actually, which would mean 33% extra is probably really close to 15%. So that makes some sense there. Maybe the original number was good. uh, Sometimes with game development, you have there's so many variables at work that some people will say they don't like this one particular variable and would like it to change. I mean, developers as well. I don't like this variable. I want it to change to solve some certain issue or to change the balance. But what you really should have changed or could have changed is some other part of the balance, and that would have worked out better. Might sometimes you end up changing the wrong thing or for the wrong reasons or in the wrong way. All right. Don't want to spend forever on this though. We've already the core analyzer is the new meta field generator in terms of how much time it sucks up. Keep piercing OP. We'll get OP other things like uniques. We don't want every piercing weapon to be as such. Although I think that was part of the reason that piercing weapons there were fewer of them in general. But anyway, we'll see what happens with that. It's also going to depend on the damage numbers of piercing versus other things, and they are less damaging. So anyway, don't have to use melee. Again, it also depends on what people are trying to do. I'm not gonna. I said in the Discord earlier today, I'm not gonna balance an entire class of parts versus a very small number of encounters in the game. I mean, obviously, it's nice when as many parts as possible are feasible, but that's never going to be possible in general. At least not in keeping them balanced with everything else in the game. No, I completely disagree. MTF says melee only comes together in the late game since it requires a lot of utilities. No, absolutely not. Completely disagree. You can do a melee run the entire time and do very well. It's perfectly possible, even without many supporting utilities at all. Just melee analysis is fine. Have a few melee weapons. You're probably thinking more of low weapon, no low melee weapons. Hmm. But yeah, if we're talking about, again, I'm not going to base an entire class of things around their viability against the bosses. So, all right, that's enough of the core analyzer. Now we're going to go back to what I was talking about here. I talked about shielding and the new part that's coming. All right, so we're going to skip past all of this. And we're getting down into, I think, wait, where did we left off last time at, wait, where did a minute ago? Focal shield. Focal shield. Went through all the armor. That's right. We talked about ablative and all of these. We were on focal shield here. Okay. Focal shield. So all these resistance utilities overall should be fine. If anyone has any comments, you can bring them up. Beam splitters, kind of insane, but also not easy to get as a rating 9 prototype, which is also rare. And I'm sure it's actually if you don't find it. Oh, another thing that actually some of these parts are balanced against some of the really high rating prototypes is their faulty rate. I think the beam splitter is one of the few items in the game that has a super high faulty rate. As a prototype, that would mean if you find it randomly, there's a good chance it probably can't even be used. So, um, yeah. So even stat wise, the fact that these are pretty good, are pretty amazing stats. But beam split are kind of funny. It's so good in theory. I've never used it because the number of scenarios where it matters is so low. It's pretty interesting because I've heard more than once on stream in the late game too, in the extended game, people are like, oh, I wish I had a beam splitter now. Which is kind of funny. So but anyway, I don't have any plans for any of these, including also all right. So we can start with any resistance utilities that are basically non-armors now, all the way down to the EM dispersion field, Merlin's chromatic field screen. Chromatic screen is obviously good, if you can get it. All of these. So, anyone have any opinions on these? I think they're probably all fine as is. Yeah, MTF. Yeah, the numbers all seem fine. I think these are probably all good. We never really heard any comments on them. I mean, it's the thing is we played with all these parts for so many years, and the ones that people comment on and are pretty much known. So once we get to some stuff like that on the list, it's easy to know what we're going to talk about, like the hard light generator, which we're going to talk about again in a second, even though we actually covered it a little bit tangentially in a previous stream. I think when more TH bots are added to the game, these utils would be a lot better. I mean, even just grunts. It's nice to have free damage resistance against common bots. Common bots. If you're Kinetic and thermal resistances are nice to slap one of these things on when you're fighting grunts or hunters, don't you think? The EM utility is already great. Yeah, the EM for sure. I mean, you'll be encountering some EM, and corruption as a side effect is always not nice. Don't need an inventory spot. Oh, don't need a spot on my inventory for grunts? No, you don't put it in your inventory, you attach it. But yeah, that's true. The scarier bots do generally use kinetics. Kinetics are generally scarier. That is true. That's what I thought you meant. I mean, we got all right. 30% kinetics better than 75% thermal. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, aren't as many scary thermal things. I think that's changed only slightly with the addition of new specialists, which can do a lot of thermal damage. But the main idea is that I think one of the main reasons that people would say that is because you're generally finding fighting, in an optimal tactical situation, you're fighting grunts one at a time. If you're not launching them to death, you're fighting them one at a time. But obviously, these thermal resistance come in really handy if you happen to be being hit by multiple grunts at once, and grunts are the most common enemy. So if you're being hit by many at once, though, you probably made a little tactical error. So Um, yeah, beamers are scary now. Exactly, beamers are an example of something that you'd like to resist. Beam splitters are nice against Cyclops. True. Again, there are use cases for these things. They just might not be as wide. So unless you have a large inventory, or extra space to fill, yeah, I can see how you might not want it. But anyway, yeah, the numbers are there. It's fine. Okay, hard light generator. All right, so this we already talked about before, and we talked about it in the context of the core analyzer discussion, which was about whether or not we want to. Let me move a window. Okay, whether or not we want to give this the ability to prevent all crits. Now, I didn't. I decided not to do that. I don't want to mix abilities of utilities. I talked early on in our streams that in general, ideally, each item should have one effect, except for some exceptions and special parts that can have multiple effects, and usually those don't have multiple tiers if they do. But anyway, it's an exception rather than the rule, and like to avoid it when possible. And I also think the hard light generator we can just buff it in other ways, right? Yes, except for some exceptions, exactly. So here we go. I'm ready. I'm excited to make this item usable. So we're not going to, like I said before in the stream, I already have another utility which is going to come along and give you immunity to all crits. So we're not going to give it to the hard light generator. I think I went over the numbers again for the hard light generator versus force fields. And yeah, now chat's getting excited with the utility to block all crits. Yes, I think a lot of you probably missed that because it was one of the first things I talked about um, in the core analyzer. No, no, one of the first things I talked about in the shielding discussion at the open. There is a new utility, or it's going to be. I'm halfway done implementing it. I stopped part way because I'm working on other crit related stuff, so I decided to wait on that real quick. But anyway, yes, there will be a new part which will allow you to resist all crits, and it sounds like a lot of people are going to want to use it. It means you'll have to give up your shielding though, or at least it takes an extra slot. And so, what are you gonna replace with it? You're going to replace shielding. Or are you going to replace something that's not shielding? Because the shielding is what you protect your part's integrity with, right? This is purely for blocking crits, but obviously against in certain battles, it's going to be pretty important. The main problem with it was, yeah, I'm not sure exactly where you're going to get it from because giving it to other bots is going to make those bots more powerful versus certain builds. So anyway, we'll see. Um, oh yeah, exactly. All right, we'll see. Anyway, so for the hard light generator, I ran the numbers and went through this again compared to force fields, and I think so. I want to buff this, but I'm not sure. The only buff is going to be no difference anymore between kinetics and thermals. It should be they'll be the same thermal, and I'm going to increase the thermal count, the thermal damage prevention. So thermal, it's going to be all kinetic and thermal projectiles by 3, 4, 6, and 8. And I think this is pretty good buff. It should be enough. I based on the numbers. If you actually calculate it out versus force fields, they're very comparable. It in the end, it is going to depend on how much you're getting shot, because remember, obviously, a hard light generator really is helpful when you're getting shot. The more you're getting shot, the more helpful it is because it doesn't drain your energy more than the upkeep. So it really does depend on that, and obviously depending on how you're playing, if you're not getting shot much, or if you're getting shot only by only by one bot or weaker bots, then it's not going to be quite as much of a help. I think it's going to work. All the scary bots are kinetics. It doesn't matter if all the scary bots are kinetics. That's also why it's already decent, is because yes, the scariest bots are kinetics, but it also helps protect you against basically both of the common damage types. Obviously, the exception is EM. The only thing this won't protect you against is EM. That's the difference. And so I decided that was kind of the trade-off between. That's the main trade-off between force fields and hard light generators. Is that hard light won't protect against EM, but force field will. In addition to the other things, but hard light does again have its own advantage in that it will protect you. You protect more. You block more damage for cheaper. Um, so it doesn't have the same power requirements, and I think with the thermal buff it's going to be okay. Valguris says it's okay. um but no, not I would disagree, Bad Emperor. I think energy costs are too high. No, I considered lowering them, but if I lower them they're too low, which means they're not too high. They would be too good if their upkeep is lowered. If you actually compare the numbers. Take hard light generators, take force fields at the same rating, and look at exactly what they block of the different kinds of weapons at that depth, and you'll find that these are actually not that bad. Um, Oimika simulations need to include defensive stuff as well. Oh, where's the circular reasoning, Oimika? Or who are you referring to as well? I'm not actually sure if you're talking about what I was talking about, but yes, right. It doesn't protect against melee or EM. Exactly. That's why it has the advantage of being cheaper though. Hmm? Oh, Tone. Tone is done streaming and has brought the more Cogmind players over here with us. Of course, along with Tone himself. Welcome to the stream, Tone. Energy costs are good. If I lower them, they would be too good because the energy costs are good now. That's not circular reasoning. Um, yeah, welcome everyone again. Energy costs are good. If I lowered them, there would be. I don't see how that's circular reasoning. I'm saying the energy cost right now is already reasonable, right? The energy costs are balanced now, so if you lower them, it becomes OP. If that's what I mean. Hey, yeah, Tone. I decided on a hard light generator buff. Just discussing. Yeah, people are discussing the hard light generator still. We're buffing it by increasing thermal to match the kinetic. So anyway, I'm pretty sure I like the balance of them, and I think that yeah, even what I did was I went back to see exactly where they were imbalanced based on what I wanted to do with them, and I think based on all the numbers we have now, the thermal damage can be increased to match the kinetic damage, and they'll be more properly balanced. So you'll get extra thermal protection from them. So yeah, I think that'll work out. They have higher energy costs, but when you're in a fight, this is actually much cheaper than energy-wise than running a force field in the long run. Especially, and it also depends on what kind of weapons you're against. But yeah, I looked at the numbers versus just average weapons at deaths. So Right, exactly. And heavy risk says too, you have to prepare more to use force fields as well. If you have good engines and possibly energy storage, you don't need that for hard light generators. You can just slot them into any build. And they're similar in that sense to shield generators, but even shield generators will in any kind of longer battle, even a shield gen, as you've seen in my current run, will run you out of power unless you have backup power. But yeah, I know MTF. If it doesn't make any difference for extended, then you could ignore it. So just ignore it because I'm not making all items viable for extended. But yeah, I think this will make them a decent option. I would use them. I actually don't use them much. I used them early on, but I also stopped using shields completely too. So I've started to use shields more, and I would use these especially after they were buffed. So well, there you go. We'll see if and who uses them then. So shield. All right. So the next thing down here, we've got a bunch of shields. Try to compare to those. There are quite a lot of different types of shields. Um, Basically, so that because there's different classes, right? You've got your shield generator, which is blocks less damage with similar ratios. The ratios are not as big of a deal here. It's mainly how much damage do they block, because how much damage they block will affect how much damage they or how much energy they drain. So you sometimes don't want it draining all of your energy, but you do want to block some damage. So the shield generator can be kind of nice for that, for lighter builds or for combat builds that just don't have enough extra power. Um, Experimental shield generator. Oh, 1 to 2 ratio is pretty good. Yeah, for 25%. But it only blocks 25% of damage. And we've got force fields, which are half damage. So more damage at generally a slightly worse ratio, which means the energy costs of this is even higher. But if you can support it, obviously it's worth it. Either kill the enemies fast, or don't get into as many fights, or you just have a ton of extra energy. Then you can afford a force field and take your attrition's even lower, and then you have the next stage up, which is 75%. These are all special parts, though. Um, haven't seen people using VFPs lately, but some people like to run VFPs when you can. And then there's remote shields, which are the other class, but block across an area, but also 25 and 50. And anyway, but I wasn't planning on making any other adjustments to these. They don't drop off enough. Oh, you mean the VFP? Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to see if and who uses VFPs in beta 11. It might be harder to run for some builds, for sure. But we'll see how it comes out. These are incredibly powerful. These weren't really meant for the player to begin with. These are actually built for the boar bots. But they're the kind of thing that if the player can use them, then more power to you. Well, actually, less power to you, but because it's going to get drained with the massive upkeep in addition to whatever they're shooting you with. But yeah, it's a high upfront cost with also a massive mass. But some people will run it anyway. Yep, that's right. Less power to you. I think that's the point. Good util requires much energy. Yes, this is true. You don't need to be able to use every good utility in the game at once. Unless you can figure out a way to power it, or yeah, you get you luck into ways to power it, and there are some ways, there are more ways. In fact, actually, there was another change I noticed on my change list here. Oh, SID effect. I actually did buff the SID I have in my notes here from X92, which I haven't released yet. I must have done that some time ago. So that's a thing. Hello, Vectis. Vectis is here to tell us, please nerf all shield generators. Okay. MTF is saying, look, in Redacted, I'm literally running a 3-engine flight at a deficit right now. What are you using on your flight build, MTF? Plus, also, it's a flight build. Flight should not be super amazing like it was before. Run something other than flight if you're going to do that. This is why you don't use force field on flight. Yeah, you probably want to use the other stuff. Okay. Oh, okay. MTF is showing me his build here. Um, all right. He's got. Oh, look at that. Uh huh. Wait, a light neutrino core. Oh, there. Oh, you're in section 7. Uh huh. Is that on the screen, right? Yes, it's on the screen. Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought you were at the end game right now, but huh. Inertial stasis, force field, SB. Yeah. Yeah. Advanced reaction control system. Current 64% avoidance. Other than MD, yeah, MD's also heavy. Oh, the MD is also powering you, but oh yeah, look at all these IRs. But I was gonna say, yeah, the power sources are a little old. Maybe you should be using better power sources. But anyway, okay. Just curious what you're doing here. Also, you got this autogun array. All right. So anyway, we got an hour and a half left to get through the rest of this here. Just run 4 backup power 7s. Alright. So yeah, one of the things was I was considering, because it was mentioned in the past. It's I talked about, after I'm done with all this, all the item reworks, I want to go back and do some renaming of things. And one of the things about renaming is that I think some of the names, I think, were shielding and the force field names, not the force field names themselves, but it was mainly the other resistance parts. Like, see, all kinds of other shields and shield and whatnot. I don't know. It was ZXC who mostly brought it up. He didn't like the idea that there's a lot of names with shield in them, and they're not all force fields. But I don't know. In the end, it's kind of hard to come up with other terms that would work for them and be also just short and obvious. But anyway, it's something I was going to look at again, is whether or not some of these, or some of these are going to be renamed. Uh, but I'm not sure. I have notes from what he said back then, and I have a list of things to consider or look at, but I'm not sure if that's going to work. So anyway, I don't see any. I don't know. The numbers were run before, and I guess the only difference is that now you might have less energy to work with in the very very late game, like mainly extended, if you're doing a research branches and getting those energy buffs, which honestly you might not get many of anyway. But like I said, I did slightly buff one of them in uh, in the new build that hasn't come out yet. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that as is for now. Let's get phase redirector. What do people think about phase redirector? Um, phase redirector is good. Kind of like a shield generator. Yeah, it's kind of like it. Basically, just using your core. It's just using core as a resource, which I guess we can bring up again. Is that's something that I've been doing more and more of, especially with the late game special items. In beta 11, several core using items were added, and I'm sure we'll see more of that in the future. Because by the late game, you do have extra core as a that could potentially be used as a resource. Obviously, in the end, we might end up. We don't want to lower it to or use it up too much because, well, if a ton of your items are requiring core, you're going to run out of core. But it's a way to balance the power because core. The only way to get core is to either evolve or use generator. So yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting possibilities with using core, which people have brought up before. Um, yeah, it's basically consumable. Yeah, it is. It's just a consumable to. It's a consumable type shield if you want to. Uh, but yeah, that's the idea is that it has higher coverage and lower integrity. So in using it, you're going. You can't use it forever. It's not the kind of thing you can use permanently. Although technically, it's not super necessary to do that, if only because in the end, there's still the limitation on your core. More integrity or less coverage would be nice. Yeah. Technically, it does stack. Yeah. If you wanted to copy it, but your core would take a beating. I mean, basically in Cogmind, anything stacks by default, unless we don't want it to stack. And the preference is always for things to stack, right? So that you can have the optional flexibility there. But yeah, it's not going to last very long. I mean, that's kind of the intent. It shouldn't last a bunch of maps because if it lasts through a bunch of maps, then you're able to regenerate your core. No way it lasts till plus plus. Well, I mean, if you saved it, it would. Anyway, I don't really plan on making any changes there. I don't want it to last a long time. Anti missiles work fine. And hacking suites. Should we nerf hacking suites? Just kidding. Hacking suites have already been reworked a bunch of times, and I think they're fine, unless the hacking system changes at some point. But yeah, for now, these are all normal. This one is kind of funny. This is an exception. It's obviously a worse hacking chip. The only reason this exists is as a special item for the Exiles NPCs, just to give them a unique type of hacking item that is unique and that they use a whole bunch of them in an array. It's kind of this like interesting different way they do their hacking. And also this is a way to give them some what seems like powerful hacking ability, but not give it to the player so early in the game. Because otherwise people are already happy to kill exiles for the other stuff you can get from it. There's no need to also give them hackware, which Data Miner can tell everyone a few things about that. Add a special event where you have to use exile chips to hack something. That would be pretty interesting. It would be interesting if they had a different, some other kind of different effect. It's true, some unique way to use them. But give exile chip anti. You missed the anti-crit discussion, Vectus. Yeah, we did that already. For lore secrets. Yeah, no, DM can't exactly Chris Sandwich. DM can't tell anyone anything because he's dead. Architect, Architect got you a little underpowered. Yeah, that's something you never actually use. Again, it's just like the EX chip, just out there in the extremes for NPCs. What? Teach the Danes why I'm not allowed in the country. Okay, Victus. Um. So anyway, yeah, that and system shields, they're all more or less similar. Although, uh, yeah. Anyway, I don't really plan on making any changes there. I was thinking of something else. I don't like the fact that their effect descriptions are very long, but these are example of special parts that really just kind of they can hook into a lot of different systems. And the fact that, if you're a hacker type build, you're going to probably have a fair number of these. And if you have a fair number and they're taking up a bunch of your slots, it's nice if they can hook into a number of different systems, not just used for hacking machines, right? So yeah, that's not a reason to necessarily change it. And change this here. Oh, I hate how these. I shouldn't reduce these to a single line. That's so that people could actually read them. It makes scrolling rather annoying in this program. Anyway, okay. These are new. Now I'm going to say something that it's not necessarily going to happen. It's been in my notes for a long time. In fact, a lot of things have. I have a bunch of ways that I might have adjust or yeah, just potentially adjust auth chips depending on usage and how people interact with them in the game. But I have very little feedback on this. Real feedback. I'm not saying people's opinions. I mean actual usage situations and stuff. So anyway, one of the things on my list was to combine all of these into a single utility auth chip. And the reason they were split up is because really there are only four main types of utilities, and they are the largest group of parts in the game. And I wasn't sure when the system was first developed how people were going to use them, and I'm still not sure, which is why I haven't made the change yet. But the idea was that one of the things I was strongly considering doing, is even just for X92, is to combine all these into a single one. Sorry, I forgot how fabs work after discovering FabNet. Yeah, we'll deal with FabNet. No, I mean it was intentionally made really powerful. We'll see if and what happens to it. I imagine it would be nerfed, but maybe not. I don't know yet. It's too early. But anyway, I think combining all the auth chips, utility based auth chips into one auth chip would certainly be helpful. It might be too good overall, but we'll see. It depends on how, because there's already a lot of ways to get these. I want to see if and who is carrying them around. But my guess is if the utility is possible, there more people would be willing to carry around certainly more people would be willing to carry a utility auth chip than just any of these. But it depends. I'm not sure. That's exactly what I'm not sure of, Tone, is how many people have actually been using auth chips after the initial curiosity phase. I know some people have, but I don't know the extent and how frequent it is. For this, we'd actually need to, for one, we could go to the stats because that is in the stats. I should pull the stats on that actually and see what's up. Vectus, have you gotten to a DSF in your current 3-week run yet? What? DF tried going into a DSF with cargo storage and still didn't have room for auth chips. Again, DSFs are again only one possibility for auth chips. There are quite a few ways to get them now. I fabbed something earlier for the first time since auth chips were added. Didn't use an auth chip though. Yeah, I mean certainly fabbing is still something people will do. It wasn't removed or affected in such a significant way that no one's going to do it. We know that much. The auth chips was just kind of an extra potential way. It does introduce an extra step, into getting it, and it delays it. It's a little hard to use, I think. So I think changing these into a utility auth chip might help in that regard. But we'll have to see. I think actually part of the balance for auth chips actually is that I've been thinking of is merchants. I think merchants could actually have a very strong impact on a number of things in the game, uh, including the auth chip potential. So, but I can't balance it for them. We're kind of balancing it for what the game is now, because I don't know when they're going to actually happen. So it's a problem. My issue is that I still never have any schematics on a non-imprint run. How can you not have any schematics on a non-imprint run? There's there's so many ways to get schematics. Oh, I got the Santa Hauler drops last round, but didn't take any chips. Yeah, that was just kind of a random thing. I needed to give people something. and this was kind of a general thing that could become anything theoretically. So you get throw out a bunch of schematics and auth chips and see if, yeah, just for fun. Allowing Rift to pull bot schematics might be interesting. Yeah, I don't think it's too logical though. I mean, well, it could work. You could basically you build the schematic by hacking the bot. It could theoretically work. Increase all auth chip charges. No Vectus. um. Oh well, the thing about the Solar tone is that for the difficulty of the event you're referring to, the thing is it's as difficult as you want it to be. You don't have to actually kill him. You just hit him a few times, and you hit him a few times, and you get auth chips and schematics, and then you don't have to deal with that many elves. But um, yeah, but no, we're never buffing auth chip charges. That's not going to happen. It's a one use thing. Anyway, this is not a change I'm making right now. I had a lot of notes on what to do with auth chips and potential balance things, but the thing is, I don't have enough to work with yet. So I never saw the hauler, only the elves. Well, that's a different story. Yeah. The if other things engage it, then yeah, you're going to be in serious trouble. That's right. If you had the revision 17 event and whatever, I honestly feel there's a single auth chip for all items, it'd be fine. No, that'd be too good. Overall, that I think probably. Well, okay, I don't know. The thing is, I'm not sure yet. I need to see what people do, and we need to wait. It's going to take longer. This is something that was only recently added to the game, like very recently. So it's not something I can actually decide much about yet. Oh, that's another thing too. Right. MTF might not even know about this. There's a new force hack which gets you an auth chip that you want. You do have to find. You have to either load a schematic or get. Yeah, there's a new way to get auth chips, which is probably going to be one of. It'll definitely be a way that people are going to be using. There's a new force hack which can get you. Yeah, you can use a force hack to get certain auth chips that you want by expending a fabricator and doing the hack. So, oh, heavy risk says I already use it a lot actually. Oh, yeah. So this could actually change that just came out in the last X9 release. So this will actually again change how people are using auth chips. I think it will increase the frequency, especially as once you have the schematic, then you want the auth chip, right? So there's two different ways um, this works. You either you have an auth chip and then you want to try and get a schematic that you can use with it. That's less useful. Or you have a schematic already, and or you get a certain schematic you want. You go after it first, and then you need the auth chip for it. How do you get that auth chip? Well, there's two ways we can address this. If there are fewer types of auth chips overall, for example, combining all of the utilities into a single type, then if you go for any auth chip source, it's going to become more likely that you get the auth chip that you're going to need, right? We're going to go from we would go from 9 all the way down to 6 by combining these. So that's one way. The other way is by this new hack, you can actually just get yourself the auth chip you need. Um, wow, heavy risk force extracts every scanalyzer comes across. Yeah, I'm surprised you use that a lot, heavy risk. Most people consider it a terrible hack because it's so random. But that's on the list to look at in beta 11 if and I get around to that too. But oh, Tone Hack says, "Does Force Hack feel much better than getting traced from not using the auth chip?" Well, that's an interesting idea. That also depends on because one thing is the Force Hack is easy to. I think it's easy to do. Actually, it might not be easy to do. How easy it is. It depends on the relative difficulty, right? If the Force Hack is easier to do than using a fabricator, which might be the case, depends on what you're trying to do, then it would make sense, right? And it also, again, of course, depends on the relative types of fabricators and how many there are and whatnot. There's probably a lot of variables there. We'll see what happens. It's now there is a way to get them. I put that in there as one yet another new source of auth chips, and just to see what people are going to do with that and if that would increase usage. So we'll see. So yeah, skip that. Relay couplers, we're skipping these. We're skipping these were actually buffed in beta 11 already. Hey, look, it's MTF's part. One of MTF's parts. These were buffed so they could actually open special doors too. They cannot still open seals. Yeah, I didn't make them open seals, but they open special doors at least. Yes, not seals. Seals technically aren't considered special doors. They're not doors. They're special in a different way. But no, they're not. I actually kind of wanted them to open seals, and I tried it a couple times. I looked at it architecturally, and I think I decided not to do it, mainly for architectural reasons as opposed to balance reasons, I think. But in the end, I also justified the fact that I didn't go through with architectural changes based on the fact that it didn't really need to be balanced. Imprint didn't really need more balance help there. So yeah, extended in the extended game anyway. But okay. Oh, look how fast MTF's auto hacker is. One turn. So fast. MTF. Such a fast hacker. How does he do that? I know how he does it. Does it with so many botnets. This thing has so many botnets inside. MTF slapping the top of his auto hacker. You know it. Thank you, Vectus. Thank you, Nightbot. Oh yeah. Oh, there's a meme. That's a meme right there. The fact that imprint can open extension queue normally means the sentence is pretty terrible. Yeah, I mean the item is not going to be amazing. I think overall. Um, Also, that you're referring specifically on imprint, but yeah, it's just for getting through some doors. These I think these are okay. People do use these, right? I personally don't usually. I probably used them a couple times, but not much. Mainly because I either ignore prototypes or just attach identify them. In most cases. Yeah, MTF says component analysis suites are excellent. But yeah, for especially for flight builds and any kind of build that has parts that are more fragile or stuff that you really can't do without, these will identify them for you. And it's mainly just a speed difference in how quickly they can operate on the parts. But no, I prefer them on slow builds. They don't have to go to the scanalizer. Oh, that's true. That's a good reason. Oh, that's if you care. Keep on inventory so you don't have to go to a scanalizer. That's right. That's again if you yeah, they're good on slow builds for that reason too. Um, Saves you time. Movement time is valuable as well. Dynamic installation systems. These were actually considered for a rework, but these are primarily used by other bots, and I wanted to keep them, especially for the other bots. Yeah, there's MTF saying these things are my bane. Amazing for bots, terrible for Cogmind. Pretty much, yeah. A lot of the bots ended up being kind of designed around adding dynamic installation systems. Part of the reason is, remember, we could technically give bots immunities and stuff, but it's always really nice if their abilities come from their parts. So if you manage to shoot off this part, then they become weaker in some way. But if they manage to lose it somehow, but in general, yeah, this is kind of just a part for other bots. It's not very super useful for Cogmind in general, but I don't plan on actually making any changes there. I went back to look at this when I was looking through all of the corruption changes, um, corruption parts, which we already kind of went over before. So, and those are down here. I did not, so I didn't ended up not making any changes there. These are all of the corruption parts, which these are done. I already read. These are the two new types of parts here, and we're keeping these were already redone in beta 11, so this is new in beta 11. These are redone in beta 11. This is technically redone. These were a different effect, but yeah, this is one stayed the same though, specifically for other bots. um Does that mean it doesn't affect corruption from corrupted parts? Oh, you're talking about dynamic insulation? Yeah, that won't protect you from corrupted parts, but it does work in waste EMP. Yeah, that's considered electromagnetic damage. The part corruption is direct system corruption, not external. It's internal through the connection is the idea. So this won't help with that. It's but it should work. I think it should work on the waste. Technically the system it's not damaged, but it's external. I think it should work though. But that's a good question. Maybe it doesn't. In the end, I think most people are probably going to prefer using these anyway. Players are. Each one has its own uses, but okay. Oimakaset confirms it does work in waste. And then there's always these, which are nice to have. And they're now consumables, which made them a lot more balanced and required less waiting around in maps forever, repeatedly. And tractor beams are fine. Even range of 4 is decent, but can we buff the system purifier percent? No. It's got 45 integrity. That's why it blocks. It gets rid of a lot of corruption. But the percentages were all changed based on a graph I made. I don't have the graph here, but uh, yeah, it's the numbers are balanced based on that. But the main thing is it works slightly slower, but it has the highest integrity. So this gets rid of a lot more corruption than the system restoration modules. At least make it 4%. No. A weird progression. Yeah, it's not really a progression at all. I mean, it's based on again just the graphs and how those work, but it's not a big deal in the end. The percent difference is not. It's just not huge. Also, these percents are not numbers that I set by percent. They're set in the game via other values actually, and the game calculates out the percent, which is why it seems weird. The values trigger you. Yes, yes, I'm sure. The percentages are messing with your mind. They are. They're based on another value, which actually is less triggering. but but it's not a value that it makes as much sense to show players, so that you have to get shown this value. Um, Tractor beams, but yeah, I don't plan on changing those. Tractor beam, it's 3.8 for a reason. Tractor beams are fine. Even I mean, you generally don't use the shorter range one, but technically, it's still pretty decent. It does save you time if you have to use it, and it's kind of mainly this is kind of like a low level item for tractor beams are OP. I love them. They are pretty good. This is good armor. Oh, you're looking at is it good armor? It's only got 25 integrity. I love putting it on so it immediately gets shot off. Right, right, right. It has 25 integrity and 60 coverage. Right. All of them do actually. The tractor beams, it's uh kind of hard to you generally would like to keep them in your inventory unless you actually need them. So they are kind of one of the things you pull out in a situation like that rather than having it always attached. There are times where you might want it always attached when you're starting to run low and you're actually being your weapons are being funded by enemies you're killing, but yeah, in general, strategically you keep them in inventory. You could change that by lowering their coverage. Um, the items themselves are already pretty good, but actually, yeah, I mean we could do that. Uh, I don't think it would change much though. Even if I guess balance wise, it would make sense to lower their coverage. But I don't think it would change much in the end because if you're carrying one of these, you probably only have one, and if you have one, you still don't want it to get a shut off, right? So you're gonna still keep it in your inventory. Yeah, you normally put these on, you just swap them. So um So, but anyway, I think logically speaking, we could lower their coverage though. It's just these are just old values. It's something that I guess uh, I do sometimes with launches, especially with arrays. Yeah, exactly. Vectis, or exactly Umika, and replying to Vectis. That's what I was mentioning earlier. That sometimes you do actually play with a tractor beam attached. It's just not as common. It's more common to keep them in your inventory. So anyway, I think lowering their coverage would be okay. Yeah, the exception there is right. If you're using a bunch of launchers and you have a low coverage tractor beam, it's kind of powerful, but. Mm, you look around here. Just looking at some other numbers. Fix. We're not fixing anything, Vectis. Fix would increase integrity rather than reduce coverage. What? I'm first of all, I'm not trying to fix anything here, but I'm trying to fix the. I mean, if we're trying to say, I'm trying to change the balance such that that makes a little more sense. I'm not increasing integrity though. This isn't supposed to be armor. Why would we increase integrity? It's not. I'm not trying to turn tractor beams into armor. They're devices. I'll only generally try to keep device integrity not that high. And again, as was mentioned by the other players, so it doesn't get shut off in one hit. Oh, well, again, it's a device. Lots of devices and processes can get shut off in one hit, but lower coverage will protect it. I'm not trying to fix anything. Add that to the quote book, bad ever. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. Not with respect to the tractor beam. Except I think it could make sense with lower coverage. So anyway, I'm thinking of 20 or 30. We could have it to 30. That's still on the higher side, um, but more reasonable. I don't want it to be too low, but yeah, I'll change it to 30. Oh, I actually changed the value. Hmm. Yeah. So because we're playing to Vector, you can suck up the matter in between volleys as opposed to getting none by the time everything's dead. That's true. If you're firing a bunch of weapons, it's constantly sucking stuff up, and also you save the time. You save the additional matter of swapping. Each time you're swapping for a tractor beam, you're also expending matter. So it doesn't matter if you've got a ton of matter, but this does matter if you don't. Anyway, I'll drop it to 30. I don't want to drop it too low on this. Uh, Mobile refinery, trap extractor. There's a new ability added to this for beta 11. The prevent, I think this is beta 11, wasn't it? Prevents user system corruption from accidentally triggering trap at current location due to movement. That was just a kind of a random extra ability to kind of make these a little better. But to be honest, I already went over this in the very first utility stream, because when I was reading about what was it, the trap scanner, I had the idea to turn extractors into extractors plus data jack. They could basically extract traps for you without a data jack. But I ran into a bunch of problems with that, both logically and mainly logically rather than architecturally. It's doable, but it starts to become rather complicated. So I kind of scrapped that plan. It's in my notes, but I don't really want to do that for now. Happy with 30. Good. I'm not shopping. Anyway, does anybody use it? That's a good question too. How many people actually use trap extractors? Probably almost no one. The thing is, there's not really a trap meta. It's just kind of a fun extra thing that you can maybe do. Uh, So yeah, that's it. That's why I think used only for lore gallery. I mean, right? That's why I think it would be interesting to buff these in a way that would kind of create a trap meta, or at least help us in help us working towards that goal, right? The problem is, yeah, just all the stuff that I started running to. So maybe I'll put this off for another time rather than doing it in beta 11. In beta 11 is supposed to generally be the whole rework of parts, but this could be part of a whole new, again, like I said, the trap meta. I think that could be a thing maybe one day, or at least it becomes more of a build style. Right now, it's possible. It's more of a meme thing to try a build style like that. But yeah, creating the trap meta would be nice. The track extractor? You mean trap extractor? Are you on mobile vectors? Maybe at least make it as extract adjacent traps. Right, that was part of the change, Bad Emperor. I was going to make it extract adjacent traps. The plan in my notes, the main plan was to make it work like a data jack. You don't need a data jack. It can extract traps on its own, and you can extract adjacent traps without even stepping on them by just moving into them. But this affects a whole bunch of UI and logical stuff. Um, not UI logic, but actually also some things in the way that data jacks are meant mainly data jacks are meant to be used. I'd have to redo a bunch of stuff. So, um, radical idea. Okay, radical idea from Umika. Trap extractor holds the last trap it extracted, and you have to put it in your inventory separately. So you're thinking about it sort of like it gives you extra space, sort of. Well, anyway, I was gonna say like the FRU, right? It processes things for you, and you can get them later. So it's kind of like a free trap storage slot. That's interesting, only insofar as it's only one trap. Um, so it makes it less interesting in that regard. But it's well, one trap. I would like the idea better if it could hold more than one trap. I'm sure everyone else would too, right? That would start turning it into more of a trap meta. The main problem there is holding more than one trap then presents your UI issues, right? How do you show the traps that it's holding? How do you get them out? Blah blah blah. Then it becomes inventory inside inventory. You have a lot of problems. Yeah, exactly. That's why Emiko mentioned. Okay, Emiko is saying that's why you mentioned only one because of the UI issue. Right. Interface does play a big part in what you can do in a game and balance. So okay, yeah. Another UI solution: allow only one type to be stored at a time and just store the number. Still kind of iffy there. That does solve more of the UI issue. That's true. You can do that. But it's also kind of weird that it's only holding one type of trap at a time. One would still be a strict buff compared to what we have today. I'll make a note of this for later, but it's not something I'll be doing now. Uh, Actually, one thing that does suggest holding more than one trap of the same type would actually work is that you normally find them in arrays, right? So you find this array of explosive traps, a bunch of them, and you could pick them all up. Because they're all of the same type, right? You can't mix types. I kind of like that idea. That could maybe work. Um, that's an interesting one. Also, the better the trap extractor gets, the more the no, the less it needs to necessarily be able to extract traps without a data jack, because it's getting better. But at the same time, I liked my original idea of turning a trap extractor into something that could extract adjacent traps and even do so without a data jack. It's just yeah, kind of problematic for reasons I'm not going to get into now. But I did try it. I actually started making the changes and then undid them. Um, Casually stuffs 9 hellfire traps in pocket. Yeah, that's we'll see. Extracting adjacent traps is a must, in my opinion. Yeah, it makes it more usable for sure. Yeah, but or it has to be reliable. Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's true. The thing is, if it became reliable, we could change different. We can each could have different storage capacity, and it's always 100%. Oh no, actually, wait. Part of the reason for the chance, the reason there's a chance here is that it takes time, just so that it doesn't happen instantly while you're in combat. But honestly, I think that would probably be changed if this was became a thing. Let me make another note there. Um, Now those are some interesting ideas. I like that. How do you get them? I'll have to think about the other UI things, but how do you actually get the traps out and all that other stuff? We'll have to figure that out, but we'll see. You're right, Bad Emperor. You can't just type instead of the canonical pen click. I know. There, I have to like it. During my streams, I'm always clicking my pen if I have to take a note, and now I've actually got another window open where I'm taking my notes, which is rather unusual for me taking notes. I normally do it on paper, but since this is going directly into my to-do list, it's on my other. You can pen click and then type. Yep. I need an actual. I needed to record my pen click so that I can like play the sound whenever I need to, just by pressing a button on my keyboard or something. That's what I'll do. I have to get and then go back to actually take notes when no one's around. I'm not even streaming, and I'm pressing this button out of habit to make the pen click sound, and then start taking my notes. It's like a reverse FRU, but it drops traps instead of sucking them up. Yeah. Oh, that's right. It could have 3 modes, right? If we're talking about UI. Perfect. That's kind of interesting, especially the fact that it would allow you to put down traps, and then using the same part, you could extract them again and put them back somewhere else very easily, right? Rather than having to like hack it or do something else weird. In fact, yeah, that would be a way to pick up friendly traps without, because you can't actually. Yeah, no, actually, never mind. I was thinking of something else, but yeah. So with a third mode, that would actually work, like the FRU. A third mode you can cycle through, the actual trap mode, install mode. This is one of the most exciting buffs of this whole rebalance. All right, install mode. Okay, yeah, I could have a third mode, which is install. That's interesting. All right, yeah, I like that idea. That's a cool idea, and that could definitely work. I'm not sure about uh, the getting rid of traps thing. Actually, yeah, I think part of my notes were also something about how it makes it too easy to use a trap extractor to basically avoid all traps, and you just carry something like this in your inventory, which is why I ended up wanting to require the data jack and use the data jack mechanics in order to first make a trap non-hostile. In addition to all the other possible ways of making traps non-hostile, including primarily hacking terminals and stuff. So yeah, I think that's part of another reason why I decided to go again and to not put that into the game. It would and start introduce a bunch more swapping and oddities and weird stuff. So anyway, yeah, that could be interesting. I like that idea, and that's actually something I could do now, as in during for beta 11, rather than because the one thing I was skipping out on was the allowing you to extract adjacent traps, but allowing them to hold traps that could be doable in beta 11 now. We'll see. I've got a lot of stuff. Um, yeah, the data jack option is kind of a backup, Marlin. I mean, you can convert a bunch of traps more easily through terminals, but yeah, it was actually one of the reasons I didn't want to remove that. I've considered removing it before. The fact that a data jack can fail on you in terms of removing a trap is that then it becomes too reliable to get traps and also to get rid of them. So you're also always carrying around a data jack for this purpose. I didn't want that to be 100% reliable. So yeah, that's using a data jack in that method is probably going to stay the same. You can already get rid of traps in other ways. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get rid of them, but this is also making it friendly. Anyway, yeah, there's a trap reconfigurator. If you get one of these things along with this new concept for the trap extractor, that would be a pretty nice potent combo, eh? Recalibrators. These are, I think, fine and balanced, and yeah, that's it. Wow, I never noticed these have high energy upkeep. It's kind of interesting. I didn't notice that. I've used recalibrators, but I mean, these are the kind of thing you generally will carry around and use. These are more of an inventory tool that you have to attach and use when you need to repair something that's broken. And I think these are probably fine. If anyone has any comments or other things to add about them, we'll field those. But they're good, I think. No comment. No comments. We have the FRU, which has already been redone for beta 11. It is now cool. Actually, was that beta 11? I don't. Beta 11 is taking so long. I don't actually remember in some cases what was done. This one seems really old. I think this might have been beta 10, huh? This is beta 10 probably. FRU is now a really cool part. Yeah, it's nice how. Oh, beta 10. Okay, that's what I thought. It was pretty old, a long time ago. Um, just something that had changed not too long ago though, in terms of releases. It used to be easier to gauge that. It's a lot harder now with the number of changes that we've got coming in beta 11, which has happened over a whole year. But anyway, yeah. We're waiting for this MTS FRU comment. Yeah. Anyway, this is pretty good. It's nice. It holds its extra matter. It's got 3 modes, which is really made this part a lot more usable. It used to be so easy for this thing to eat your parts, eat your loot, which is pretty funny and also not funny. And also, yeah, it's nice to have this third mode, which I've introduced and will now also apparently potentially be applicable to the trap extractor. I'll have to see if there's any architectural problems with that. I'm quite curious to see how this is going to work. The trap extractor. It'll be really interesting to see. We need a sound redeem on the stream. MTF yelling FRU reverently. Do it. We need to get MTF to just record a bunch of stuff, right? like botnet good. Oh. MTF said eating my SB was the last straw. Yes, exactly. People used to accidentally on the old FRU just eat really good stuff just when you're walking around and forget to turn it off. It was pretty funny. Cogmind community voice pack dream reel. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that I don't have any music for my stream, my dev streams. We talked about that, I guess, in a previous stream. That normally we've got the sound effects for the game going on in the background and audio. Don't have anything for dev streams though, so well, it's just me talking and yawning. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So yeah, the FRU is nice. Drone bays. How many of these do we need to nerf? Lots and lots of drone bays now. Cogmind started with like 4 or 5 drone bays. We now have 20 something drones. Actually, isn't that's something that people voted for? More drones. That's right. I haven't done voting for a while either too. I need to do that. People on Patreon voted for more drones, and so we got a whole ton of drones. All the special drones are nuts, though, except War Drone. That should be buffed. Well, War Drone. It's kind of War Drone is in a weird place. The problem with all right, so the problem with really good big drones is that you get free full repairs when you recall. Now that's partially for architectural reasons. In fact, that's a big part of the reason originally was that it's easy to do. So you recall a drone. All a bay has to do is store the type of drone it carries. It doesn't have to actually store the drone or any information about the drone. It just stores the type. And so if you recall a drone, it's okay. I recalled the drone. I've now got 2 of these drones. And if a drone bay can hold multiple drones, okay, I'm going to release a drone now. Well, okay, I have just reduced the counter and release a drone. Now, if you have multiple drones and they are in, they're damaged, Some of them take damage and they're not repaired. What if they're not repaired if they return to your bay? Well, then which one are you releasing? Are you releasing one that's in perfect condition? Are you releasing one of the damaged one? Is this a first in, last out thing? Is it, how does this work? Um, it becomes a UI issue, and UI issues are always something we want to avoid first and foremost. So in the end, I decided the best mechanic here is okay. Drones get free repairs, which made sense earlier. In early Cogmind, drones were simply all they were is information. They just go out there, they fly around, they look at stuff, right? And they come back, and you recall them. Okay, whatever. So it lost a flight unit. Okay, we'll give it back to you for free. All the drones have like almost no integrity. Okay, that's fine. They're going to get repaired a tiny bit. Now we have drones which are actually powerful, and the war drone is the most extreme example. You have this super powerful bot on its own, which which gets free repairs. I mean, it could be more powerful, right? If we want to make a true war drone that we're one of the last, yeah, we could do that. But the fact that it can be repaired at your whim anytime you put it inside this little bay, it can very easily be overpowering. You can just, I mean, it's really powerful already if you control it right, right? Wargamer dies in 2 shots to programmers at any game. That is true. Yeah, that's true. But it can't be good against everything. But war drone is peak tedium play. It was also a meme item. So let me see. I will now look at. I was going through all that without looking at chat, so I didn't get interrupted in my train of thought there. But let me see what people said. Drones good. I'm glad people voted for them. Yeah, I think it was a good vote. It's fun to have all these extra little interesting drones out there. Oh, War Drone is the same level as MAU right now. Mm-hmm. Oh, Warzone needs. Okay, that's another thing. Yeah, Warzone needs to take less slots now that inventory is tighter. That's theoretically doable. I remember actually. Wait, I considered that when storage was changed, and I ended up not changing it yet. I wonder why. Maybe the one has a 20% chance of emerging of turning hostile. That would discourage recalling. That's the Warzone in particular, though. Um, anyway, that doesn't really address the whole drone issue, but yeah, the Warzone is the big one that's very different. Drone manipulation UI pop up. Yeah, it would be. Oh, we don't want more UI like that. It's supposed to be simple. We need to keep it simple. Make it consume matter proportional to repaired parts. That's an interesting idea. Repairing drones eating matter. Hmm. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I didn't add that in. Hmm. Didn't think of that one before. Repairing your drones requires matter. Okay, what happens if you don't have enough matter? The drone can't be returned then because it's only going to restore the type of drone. It can't restore the type of damage or anything. I mean, it can if we wanted it to, but again, we don't want to do that. If you don't have enough matter, the drone can't enter your inventory. You have to leave it behind. I mean, is that mm, that doesn't really make sense though? And you can't recall damaged drones if you don't have enough matter. Just overall, it's weird. I think in the end, the simplest solution we have is just get free repairs on all your drones. Corner case anyway doesn't have to make sense. Yes, it does. No, no pen click the general idea really. It's I don't think it's gonna work. It doesn't it works for about 2 seconds. We have it unable to redeploy until the matter is paid. Yeah, but that's really hard then, because say you had two drones, one's damaged, um, and all it's all right. Then you would end up storing an amount of matter for each of the drones you have stored. It just gets really complicated. Transjammer doesn't have to make sense. Then nothing makes sense. Transjammer still can make sense if you want it to. Damage the drone bay if you don't have matter. Huh? Wow, that's an interesting idea, Marlon. That's an interesting alternative. Right? Damage the drone bay, but it doesn't. That where it works from a UI and balance sense, but it also doesn't make sense. But you may rent this drone's abilities for 1 coin a turn. Drone bays has become just merchant conduits. Maybe damage the drone bay even if you do have matter. Each time the drone comes back, the bay gets damaged. Maybe you don't even require matter at all. There's no matter requirement. It just damages the drone bay every time it comes back. That sounds terrible. Bad Emperor says it sounds great. Are you sure it sounds great? Every time the drone comes back, the drone bay gets damaged by the drone's missing integrity. That's interesting. Hmm. Hey, Younga. Did you like that idea or did you just show up? I didn't see you commenting earlier. Maybe you just got here. Flavor does the drone bay containing components for various repairs that get used up? Yeah, I think that makes sense actually. The drone bay itself is kind of composed of the parts that it's using to repair the drone. That makes sense. That could totally work. Oh, it's true. It does invalidate the strategy of constantly repairing your drones for free, which doesn't make sense to start with. Yeah, that makes less sense. The only reason it was really done is because for balance reasons, for just to get it to work at all. But if to doing this would also require, yeah, missing integrity, something. I don't know how well this would balance. It'd probably balance in an interesting way. It wouldn't be a direct one-to-one integrity change cost. Only if you can generate destroyed drones at a cost of integrity. ZXC and Shambles. ZXC is always abusing drones. That's right. This is a ZXC nerf. I can't believe we're nerfing the bees strategy that hasn't been used in years. Well, the thing is, some drones could be redone a little bit, but I don't know. That does change a lot of things, probably, huh? I have to think about this longer. Um, yeah, I mean, it could easily be the integrity cost could easily be adjusted. Let me make some notes here. Pen click. So one thing that would come of this is we could buff the war drone. Not that that's going to have a massive impact on anything. The bigger impact is what kind of how would this change uses of other drones? Um, there would need to be some rebalance. First of all, though, wouldn't one thing to not worry about is it wouldn't be a one-to-one. It wouldn't be say your drone comes back with like several missing parts altogether, along with its core worth like hundreds of integrity, and you're going to lose the bay really quickly. It would be at a different rate. It would be a different ratio, a much smaller one. So you'd lose part of the drone bay integrity. Um, Bad emperors bays need less coverage then, and higher tiers use less loss probably. No, I mean the coverage is there intentionally. Drone banes are intentionally designed to have high coverage and higher coverage and pretty decent integrity for a number of reasons. Partially because then they remain useful even after you don't have the drones. Now, actually, they probably don't need that change, or they don't necessarily need to fill that role if we're going to change the mechanics as I'm talking about here. But again, like I said, damaged drones returning won't impact. It won't be a 1-to-1 ratio damage to your bay, so that would be fine. Also, again, your drones might come back undamaged, right? A lot of drones you just also just outright lose. That's again the reason for the coverage and integrity being what they are. You can use drone bays as kind of makeshift armor. They're not quite as good as actual armor, but they do work as armor. So maybe bays can rebuild destroyed drones if it costs their integrity anyway. Um, all right, that's a whole new idea. People do like to know. People do like to know if there's a way to get more drones. Now, what if that was a third state for drone bays? Again, we already talked about one third state item today. What if drone bays had a third state? You have off, you have we have release, and you have build. Top five Cogmind questions for sure. Says yeah, it's a very common question. Can I build more drones? It's very common. If bays rebuild their drones, they'd be so much better. Yeah, that could be rebalanced for that. Um, Basically, it takes integrity to rebuild a new drone, which could be pretty interesting. It's a question of how much integrity that would take, which we can set arbitrarily, technically. It would be in the description. Drone descriptions are already pretty long, though. This is making a carrier build sounds awesome. Yeah. Oh, well, people have already done that, Bad Emperor. You can make a carrier drone. That's what the whole bees strategy was. You just couldn't necessarily build it. That would make supersonic drone less of a meme. It's. I think it could. I think it could. I like this idea. This is an interesting idea. This is very interesting stuff. All right, one second. And that would definitely be kind of an interesting carrier. The carrier idea is interesting because what if you don't care if the drone comes back? So you don't need to use the integrity for repairs. You instead use the integrity to build more drones to send out. There's a lot of balance things to consider in here. So one of the things I'm wondering about here is can what if you use your integrity to build more drones than the drone bay can even hold? Which is kind of a new idea. You get your assault drone bay and you actually use it to build a larger squad of assault drones without even concern for whether or not they'll be able to return. In fact, it says drones should be unable to be recalled. Problem solved. Well, it's not really a problem. Um, oh, you were referring to matter to build. Anyway, yeah, the idea is integrity here rather than matter. Yeah, I like the idea of using their integrity, assuming they're composed of parts that are building the drone. It's a joke. Don't do that. Yeah, I wasn't planning on doing that. I think drones should equal up the maximum allowed number of drones. Um, you think drones should? You mean drone bays? Drone bays should only be allowed to control up to their maximum allowed number of drones. Um, I didn't want to do that. It gets too complicated. Right now, as long as you have any drone bay of a given type, then the drone stays active, right? That was a change that was made. Was that beta 10? So yeah, if you remove the bay, yeah, it was one of the. That was beta 10. But otherwise, how do you make them return? Well, if you have too many drones, then they can still return. Remember, a returning drone, if there's not enough space in your bay for it, it just hangs around you instead. It just follows you until there's space. So they'll still return. You just don't have space to store them. So that's not an issue. The only issue is, which will actually come down to a numbers issue in terms of how much integrity does it cost to actually build a new drone, which can be balanced for that with that in mind. But it'll be more expensive, clearly, than just repairing existing drones. A decent bit more expensive. I think it makes sense to not produce more drones that it can hold. Well, I don't think so. I think it's fine if it can do that. Yeah, a lot design wise, I don't see a reason to block that. Anyway, that's a whole lot of possible ideas. Another pretty big expansion for drone bays. Wow, that's We'll see how that works. I'd have to actually go through and look at the numbers and see if they're going to make sense in the end. But the actual strategic effects that might have on the game, that's kind of hard to predict. It's there are too many variables there. We'd have to actually implement it and see what happens. My patrons should vote on another drone rework. Kind of just happened in here in chat with people suggesting the idea, and I like the idea, so I want to kind of do it. But oh man, a lot of stuff I need to be working on, coming up with new ideas. Oh my! If I have a bunch of drones just before MC, yeah, yeah, you could. What you could then start. What if you it? What if you fill your inventory with like 10 drone bays and attach them all one by one and just start building a huge army? And you technically don't need a lot of drone bays to control your drones. So doesn't this make the bees strategy even stronger? I agree with you, Vectus. It has been a while since we voted on anything. We need an arbitrary Patreon poll. Don't worry, it's a nerve, I promise. Yeah, that seems kind of problematic. I'll have to think about these longer later on. Oh, the problem is, I'll go over it in a second. 1 second, let me take this note down. Sound effect. All right. So, I mean, yeah, it's nice to be able to limit drones by the amount that you already have out. And that would solve some issues actually, even though I don't really want to limit it, but it might end up being required if this was done. It's hard to do that though because bays are supposed to be able to control any drones of matching type that are out there. That's gonna be this kind of gotta be a thing. Just for flexibility purposes. Otherwise, it gets too complicated, both for the player and architecturally, but mainly for the player is the more bigger concern here. Make bays no stack. Well, I mean that doesn't really help. MC activates a special hack that disables all drones. Yeah, no, it doesn't really. Half stack drone base, right? No, no stacking wouldn't really work. Yeah, there it is. Oyamaka did it. Give drone base a warm up period. Always the solution now. There we go. Warm up period. Anyway, I'll think about this later. There's probably, yeah, I've got taken a bunch of notes. Psychic damage. I've taken a bunch of notes on some possibilities here, but half stacked drone base should release half drones. It's War Drone and his buddy, half War Drone. They get half the weapons, right? The War Drone, the half War Drone only has 2 nano swords. All right. So yeah, I gotta figure that out. I'll have to think about that longer. That's got so many wide-reaching implications that yeah. Do you get war or do you get drone? All right. So drone base, yeah. I mean, these numbers, by the way, have already been pretty fine-tuned over the time that drones base have been in existence in order to make sure that they are based on their, and also this number here, based on their mass, integrity, and coverage. These numbers, I said I spent a while. I mentioned before, we spent a while balancing all the armor values as well. These are balanced closely against the armor, so that these are generally good as armor if you don't have actual armor, but they're still not, they're still not great armor. So they were, yeah, that was mainly intended as a way to give them an extra use when you don't have drones. So yeah, and I think I'd like them to keep that role rather than changing these numbers based on other kinds of drone mechanics. But we'll see if that will work out. It is kind of weird that you get free repairs on your drones when they come back, and that was a UI issue. over first and foremost. So if we can have an alternative which could make some sense and allow some other kinds of flexibility, that's always cool. I like doing that. All right, so bomb factory number 2 is already pretty good. MAU. Where is who was it? Phanomfear, who was really harping on this a lot. Although there's multiple players have before. Multiple players, but I think he was one of the bigger ones. Yeah, you can. Vectus is chanting MAU. You've let this go for too long. MTF. MAU could use a buff. So yeah, I mean the problem with it is it's infinite allies. Obviously, it's hard to, not easy to get, relatively hard to keep until you can use it. And it does have negative side effects too. So either reduce the rate to 1 per 10 turns or remove the demo response. Yeah, that's the thing, the demo response. You can get, there is a demo response, so you can get a lot of these, but they do send out, they will send demolishers. So it's not infinite, it's limited by the amount of matter you can use. That's true. That's true. I mean, all right, that's what I mean, is that if you can, it's limited. Okay, so sorry. I don't mean truly unlimited, but yeah. 1 per 10. 1 per 10 is super fast. I'm curious what people will do once this is actually usable, though, because it was intentionally made not that usable. I mean, theoretically, I mean, you could technically use it, but it's not usually a good idea. Now, part of the reason for that is this is a special utility that was made specifically for a certain kind of bot, right? That bot. You do realize also that, well, 1 per 10 turns, I guess it won't have a big impact on attacks versus the wall. If you attack this ZDC wall, it'll be building more quickly. But I think you think infinite assembled allies are better than they are. Oh, that's true. They aren't. Yeah, they're weak on control and raise alert like hell. Yeah, that's true. Yes, buff the ZDC wall. It wouldn't really make a huge difference probably because well, I know it will make a huge difference. It might make a tiny difference, but not much of one because of the way you can just annihilate giant swaths of assembled in general. We could change this and just see what happens. I'd be open to that. 1 per 10 turns. I don't even know what a good number or reasonable number would be here. I would be okay with overtuning it though. Also, let me think. That's right. There's also the matter upkeep. This is one of the few items. There's obviously these few here. This is one of the very few items in Cogmind that has matter upkeep. Matter upkeep is something that I generally avoid using. For one, because it requires a lot of toggling. Also, because if you accidentally leave something like this on, it can really mess you up. Especially if the number is high. This is kind of an exception, a very special one that was added later. But yeah. No, I didn't forget. I'm forgetting in the balance purposes. I was thinking about one in. I was thinking that the matter cost. I haven't used MIU myself, and well, ever. I was thinking the matter cost was referred to in the effect, but I forgot. It's the way that MAU is balanced is via matter upkeep. But yeah, this item is balanced via matter upkeep. Hey, Danny Expert, welcome. So, yeah, I mean, we could overtune this. I'd be okay with it and just see what people do with it because it might be good, it might not. So, yeah, that would definitely lower the matter upkeep a lot. Lower the total matter cost of doing this. 10 seems on the really low side, and players certainly like overpowered stuff. So I don't know if I can trust you guys. I will do this, but on condition that somebody actually uses it during beta 11. Somebody will use it. We'll see. I mean, yeah, we'll see. It's hard to use. It's true in the first place. There is the demolisher response too, although technically that only happens. That doesn't happen everywhere. So anywhere that doesn't happen, you'll have a little bit of extra power. But anyway, we'll see. Trust to do what? Overrun the complex and assembled? Yes, that pretty much. We'll see. If you want, go ahead. We'll see how it turns out. I mean, yeah, I like the idea of trying it anyway. Because yeah, no one does use this because it is pretty much unusable. And I mean, again, part of the reason for that was it's built for a bot, but it's always nice when we can make it more usable. One of the things about tuning stuff, in design is you'll find a middle ground somewhere if you go to the extremes. So a lot of things in Cogmind in the past have been overtuned intentionally just to see how powerful something can get, and then you can scale it back. That happens a lot during pre-releases, in particular. But yeah, all right, we'll put it at 10. It's funny that MAU is parallel. Okay, yeah. Well, it's just a reflection of what's possible with it. It has to be listed there. Um, yes, they do. Bad Emperor. My guess is you destroy one of some returns and break anything even before it extended. It's just a fun thing. Yeah. I think it's probably just a fun thing most of the time. Now, now more fun than it was. It was probably not. It was definitely not fun enough earlier. But yeah, you can definitely get these, Bad Emperor. Um, but yeah, they're not super easy to get in the first place for multiple reasons. All right, there's the Heart of Steel. Actually, there was a note on the Heart of Steel in my old notes. 1 second. Oops, that is not a search window. Oh yes, this was a whole different thing. Let me read my notes real quick. All right, so something we talked about this a long time ago is what if Heart of Steel became a processor like thing, which would allow, which it could become smaller in size because you couldn't remove it. Other things about it would be reduced. It would have reduced costs in other ways, but you couldn't remove it. Um, People were talking about this a long time ago, and I took some notes on that. But yeah, it would be lower slots. It would increase assembled spawn rate in ZDC. The increasing the assembled spawn rate in CDC probably doesn't make. It's not going to have much of an impact really, because they can't spawn before you get there. They can't spawn more than will fit in the door, which they've generally filled it up by the time you get there usually. Anyway, and 1 per 10 turns is they're not going to spawn much by the time you kill them, so it's not going to matter much. But anyway, back to this. Yeah, Heart of Steel. People were talking about changing it to a kind of a processor idea and adding even more other parts, which kind of like you attach them and they're kind of like an incubation type thing. While they're attached, they keep feeding on your matter, and you get something at the end. There was like an idea for doing that, which could probably somewhat reduce the tedium of using this part actually, which is kind of nice. Yeah, exactly. Chris Sandwich says Heart of Steel is robot pregnancy. Basically, that's what people were talking about. um, and then you give birth to a gun happy baby. Yep, pretty much. Anyway, I don't think they're going to make any of that change now. This is kind of a change from much further out. We're probably just going to leave this as it is now. There's no strong reason to change it right away. I'll leave that in, but it's in my notes for later for potentially if other parts, similar parts are added, actually. Um, Let me take a quick note here. Steel. What? Yep, shoot. Had an idea. I wanted to take a note about beta 12. Suddenly came up with something which might be related to Heart of Steel. All right, that's it. Wait, we're about to hit. Oh, ha! Funny, Vectus. Yeah, there. Long pen click. There we go. We're done clicking that pen. Yeah, beta 12 idea. It's kind of related to something else I was planning on doing for beta 12. The Heart of Steel could be tangentially related to it. Might not be necessary or too related, but anyway, we're not going to do anything with Heart of Steel for now. We're going to do Golem Unit. Golem Unit doesn't need anything. Golem Unit's done. And chat, don't talk about Golem Unit. Plastic Heart would be God. Plastic Heart would be God. Good one. PSU Vigor is also good. Some people don't like it for some reason, but I don't know. They're crazy. It's good. It's crazy good. There's also the phasing AFG. They get into the special items down here now. Oh, we're also going to run out of time soon, so I'm going to speed up here. Phasing AFG. These are a lot of this stuff is actually Exiles things in here, which I fixed already. This is a special item for Braun. Phasing AFG is special. Works fine. Chrono Wheel is fine. Fine. 3264. Core Expander. Yep. Core Expander is fine. I should up the chance it'll give you a power slot. Trigger half of chat at once. Core Regenerator. Yeah, I already redid these. The ratio on IRs was changed. No, yeah, I'm just kidding. Although Core Expander, I think it is 100. I think it's 100% random, which is why you're more, unlike a lot of the other random slot type related things in special modes or whatever. I think Chrono Wheel, too much dev work put into it to use a single item utility that's quite rare. It might be more something someday. It does have a special. It does have a special use as well. Not one that a lot of people use, but there's also it might get something else. We've got integrity redistributor. All right, we know that the ratio was changed on that. That was changed. This was all these items were reworked. Is this the most recent one? Super Vector. Let me check my notes. Oops. $15. SID. Oh, that's what it was. SID. Right. SID's 40. Oh yeah, I buffed this. That's what it was. Yeah, I buffed that since the last version you guys are playing. Core expander should randomize your slot distribution. Let's at it. No, you can get that from your physics calibrator. Do it on your own. So yeah, this was buffed a little. So the dissipator, that one is super integrated mediator. That was a part that became an artifact in early beta 11. So that was already redone. Basically, just free extra abilities for you. Core membranes. Oh, as always. NEM is actually going to get changed a little bit. Well, not changed, it's actually going to get expanded. I had a bunch of ideas for NEM that I wanted to see people using it before I went in and did more with the NEM. But I've got some additional ideas I want to do. Hopefully by the next release as well. By the next pre-release, I mean. But yeah, the navigation efficiency matrix will be getting a little bit of update. Core resets is your standard core resets here. CRM, subatomic, Terabomb, matter drive. Matter drive. So many people say I should nerf matter drive. NEM should give telecontrol to transdimensional reconstructors, but still give teleportitis. That's a UI issue as well, though. Being able to that's a massive UI issue. Well, okay, it's not massive; it's just big. I was thinking of ways it could be massive, but it's probably just big. Is allowing you to control that. It is an interesting idea, and in fact, I thought of that one when I was working on it, but decided against it, partially for UI reasons. But it'll get something else later. MD single-handedly carries energy to now. That's a good reason to nerf it, huh? Because we don't want it to be essential. But no, I think it's fine. I mean, I don't think it really needs to be nerfed. The only thing about Matter Drive that might be nerfable is its accessibility, the fact that you can get it all the time. But I don't know. I've never really been. I think I'd still want to wait on that one. I've not really wanted to mess with it, even though it's something I personally don't have a lot of experience using. But I mean, it's more powerful for energy gen than any other item, and its armor. And its armor. Why would you want to use this as armor? That'd be terrible type of armor if you're going to lose your energy. Isn't it guaranteed in S7? Yeah, it is, Jack 9. That's what I'm referring to. The fact that it's guaranteed seems to be OP. But yeah, I mean, it has good coverage and decent integrity, but if you lose it, that's pretty terrible, right? GD doesn't like the S7 guarantee, right? Yeah, exactly. He doesn't. He doesn't like the fact that it was guaranteed. Um, Vegas have no cache. Items should be randomized from the queue pool instead of always the same, predictably bad. Yes, that was actually something I considered. Well, I mean, that's the way. Let me think. What was it? Oh, yeah, but they are parts from the ship. That's part of why they're. It's supposed to be a storage area where they're building stuff for the ship. It's not random. So yeah, that doesn't make sense. I mean, with the lore and the way it was laid out, that was the intent. Is that they're. Oh yeah, mechanically speaking, not thematically. Yeah, sometimes theme overrides mechanics, but I think it's fine for now. Especially giving people a source for energy. Although I'd kind of like to take that source away to see what people do. um, take it away as a guaranteed source. We could. I mean, it could also just be sometimes it's empty, right? As in, it doesn't have to be something else. What if you just get nothing in that particular part? It's still worth going in there. You just there's just not there. But exactly. That's why I want to see it, MTF. MTF is saying if MD goes, then most builds can't power anything. And I think that's exaggerating. But I also would like to see what people do if that's the case. So that kind of makes that's just making an argument for making it not guaranteed. I appreciate being able to dig everywhere. Yeah, there's the fact that it can also dig too. That's obviously another nice advantage of it. I don't usually run mega deficit builds like some people on the stream. Yes. Yeah, the digging is nice too. It gives a guarantee that you can get into LRC cache, which is weird. Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways to get in, especially by the end game, so I don't think that's really important, Vectus. If you get that far into the game and you're having trouble getting in there, then yeah, that's probably another mistake. But Bad Emperor says, I think the whole can't power anything problem mostly affects flight people. Mostly, yeah. And it also affects flight people who insist on playing flight like it could be played before beta 11, which the intent was to mostly get rid of that. So, uh, yeah. However, you can power stuff and afford 3 energy slots. Yeah. We'll see. The meta is changing, and so yeah, we'll see. I think I would like to test without the matter drive always in there, but without any other changes to it. Core physics calibrator is just an extra new thing. Spacefold, micro warp, some of our new core sucking parts, which allow you to do interesting things. All the LRC parts. MWD needs a nerf. You think? Well, I mean, you can always just have it take more core damage. I think. Wait, wasn't it core damage higher earlier or something, or was it not? I don't remember the change to this. It's changed, but it's been changed before. Oh, I completely agree with you, Bad Emperor. Yes, it's. But obviously, some of the flight players won't agree with you. That was the intent, though. That's the intent of the Beta 11 reworks. Warp drive. Let me see what has changed about the micro warp drive. We already. We can look at that and test and see how it was before. Oh yeah, okay. So the damage rate on the MWD was actually doubled after it was added. Yeah, it used to be 1. MWD used to be 1. We can change it to 3. It used to have it used to have 5 spaces of travel that were free. That was another thing too. Maybe. Yeah, I think I recall that as well. But it used to be 1 and now it's 2. The main thing comes when you do an unexpected super long warp and you take a whole bunch of unexpected damage. That's on danger. But at the same time, you can kind of mitigate this danger by first exploring or by not jumping down potentially long hallways, which is obvious. MWD should have a max range, maybe. Uh, no, I actually don't want it to have a max range because I want it to potentially have. I want you to have the potential danger of taking a lot of core damage by just zipping down a super long corridor and not expecting it. You have to kind of be a little more careful. I don't want to put a cap on the amount of damage it can do to your core. Jumping down hallways is what makes it OP. Okay, then we increase the damage. There you go, right? I don't want you to make mistakes. No, no, no. That's not what it is, Chris Sandwich. It's not me wanting you to make mistakes. Me wanting you to plan for the potential or prevent those mistakes to begin with. But yeah, we can up the damage further than it was already upped. But yeah, I mainly base it on the kind of like average quarter lengths and whatnot. But technically, since you can avoid using it in those situations where that's a danger, it probably doesn't come into play quite so much. But yeah, based on how people are using it, it does seem it is very powerful as intended. I guess we just need to up the damage. Then we can up it. We'll up it by 1 more then, and see how that changes things. We're still adjusting it. Apparently, it was 1 to begin with. And I think yeah, the very first version it did have if it was close jump, it was free. We'll see how 3 works out. I mean, maybe it needs to be even more, but I think, yeah, we'll have to just be careful with that. Don't want it to go too high. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It seems extremely powerful. Not Spacefold Activator is good, but not quite as. Yeah, oh, that's right. The Spacefold Activator also used a different cost based on a percentage of your maximum rather than the way the warp drive works. Work a little differently, but that's nice. Okay, let's see. We've got LRC stuff, which is just free. People like free. Spacefold is narrower. Yeah, it has narrower use cases. It's still good, but definitely narrower. But it's okay. All right. I think these are probably fine. And then we've got all of our traps. Buff LRC boosters. Why are we going to buff LRC boosters? What? No. That's a flight player talking right there. 10 free mass support is pretty nice. It's very nice, especially on your light builds. I mean, it's one of the better parts here. Storage is nice too. I mean, free storage. Who's going to complain about that? LSC boosters is a wheel item? Right. Right, Vectus. All right, we got the traps. Those are all done. I mean, there's nothing to really change about them. Traps are based on the amount of damage. They're kind of like the average damage for explosions. Most of these are explosive traps. The explosive ones are based on the average damage for explosions, so they're all really balanced against the same system. And there's a bunch of other random stuff down here, all of which is kind of very special, of course. These are special items. We're out of utility categories, but we're technically, I threw these into the utilities because they're kind of on their own, the non-part items. So what do people think about these? Any input on any of the stuff on this list? The stream's going to come to an end in a moment. A little past my time here. I have some stuff I got to run and do, but we did, it looks like, manage to finish everything. Yeah, some of these items, a number of you probably haven't even heard of, and many of you have never even seen. Some of these are pretty special. Portable AFG is terrible. Can we buff? I mean, the portable AFG is, it's not meant, it's not, it's the only reason the portable AFG exists for the phasing AFG. So there's no real need to buff it. I don't think it's meant to be an inferior main C tech. It's meant to be inferior because then there's the phasing AFG, which is actually good. I don't want them. I don't think they both need to be good. We can increase the life on it or whatever. Didn't want to make it. I mean, actually, well, wait. Actually, wait. Portable AFG doesn't go through walls, right? It's that one. I mean, we could increase the life on it. Either way, it's not going to be buffed in terms of mechanics because the whole idea is that it just doesn't have quite the same features. What about Terrorbombs? Can we make them more useful? Yeah, portable AFG doesn't go through walls. Right. So without the ability to go through walls, then it's definitely. I mean, I can increase the life, but I mean, what's even the use case for it? Uh, do people ever even use it? It's what kind of use case might this have? Okay, exile item. Yeah, but you can't get it there. So I think the portable AFG pretty much has zero uses. What the use case for Terra bombs when you restart a run quickly? Terra bombs are awesome. But anyway, yeah, I mean the portable AFG is really it's not meant to be something that you're really going to use. I don't think it can. The whole reason it exists is for the phasing AFG version, which is cool. But yeah, you get this one later in the game, so you not only do you get it later in the game, it's also worse. So, I don't think you're gonna do anything with that. It's kind of just a little lore item that's technically it's usable, but I don't want to actually. I don't see how it could be useful without actual like making it also phase or which technically that could work, and then we change them the phasing AFG, but I wanted them to be a little more different. Anyway, I don't really think it's super important to change stuff like this. Plus, also, okay, my time's up. I'm gonna have to go now. Gotta run. We're pretty much done with the utility list, and I have a super long list of things. Okay, should do impact damage to enemies caught in the blast. Oh God. That would be insane. Um, that would be really insane. Anyway, I have a massive list of things to do for the next release, based on our last couple streams here on the utilities. Actually, it's the third utility stream. It's a lot of stuff. Hopefully, the Coriolanized situation is solved too. I'll have to go back and do those numbers again, and that might work out though. I think. And that whole drone bay thing, the trap extractor thing. Oh, those are pretty big changes actually. But I'll get all the small stuff out of the way first, and yeah, this will probably be the last dev stream then, probably. I mean, it's been fun to do though. We'll have to do this again sometime when it's appropriate for whatever I'm working on. But it's not often that I'm working straight from spreadsheets since I'm usually in the game data and source code. But anyway, yeah, these have been a lot of fun. It turned out to be a good format for going over all the parts with everyone here and more quickly exchanging ideas, since I can talk about stuff rather than just typing it out and get everybody doing this at once. Also on stream, people are often around at my stream time, so that's good. Yeah, so I'm going to go through and actually make these changes now. Also, the weapon changes haven't been applied yet, despite all those different changes we went down through the score the spreadsheets. So there's the pretty spreadsheet we were looking at earlier. I'll leave you on that, and I'm now going to head off and do stuff. So until next time, and of course, next time we're gonna work on the finishing or continuing to sterilize more and more OB10 floors, which has been an interesting experience. But that'll be the next stream. And until then, I'll see you on Discord.